The afternoon light filtered through the large windows of Café Belmont, one of those trendy downtown spots where freelancers typed on laptops and young mothers met for overpriced lattes. Claire Winters sat alone at a corner table, her untouched coffee growing cold, staring at nothing in particular while trying not to cry in public. At 32, Claire had what most people would consider a successful life. She was a senior marketing director at a prominent advertising firm, lived in a beautiful loft apartment, drove a nice car, and had a closet full of designer clothes. Her dark hair was styled in loose waves that fell past her shoulders, and she wore a lavender cashmere sweater that probably cost more than some people's monthly rent. Everything about her appearance suggested someone who had it all together. But appearances, as Claire had learned painfully over the past month, could be devastatingly deceptive. 4 weeks ago, her fiancé Marcus had called off their wedding 3 months before the date, after she'd already sent out invitations, booked the venue, ordered the dress. His reason? He'd fallen in love with someone else. A co-worker, someone he'd been seeing for the past 6 months while Claire had been planning their future. The betrayal had shattered something fundamental inside her. But worse than the heartbreak was the realization that she'd been so focused on building her career, on achieving success, that she'd failed to notice she was losing the person she thought she'd spend her life with. She'd worked late nights, taken weekend business trips, prioritized client meetings over date nights, and Marcus had found someone else. Now sitting in this cafe on a Wednesday afternoon, having finally taken the mental health day her boss had been urging her to take, Claire felt hollowed, out, empty, lost. She didn't know who she was without her career to define her, and she'd lost the relationship she'd thought would be her anchor. "You look sad, Princess." The small voice broke through Claire's spiral of thoughts. She looked up to find a little girl standing beside her table, perhaps 4 years old, with a mass of curly brown hair pulled into 2 small pigtails. The child wore a coral-colored sweater and had the kind of direct, unfiltered gaze that only small children possess. "I'm sorry," Claire said, trying to pull herself together. "You look sad," the little girl repeated matter-of-factly, like a princess in a story when the dragon takes her castle. "Do you need a hug?" Despite everything, Claire felt a smile tug at her lips. "That's very sweet of you, but I'm okay." "You don't look okay," the child insisted with the brutal honesty of the very young. "You look like you're going to cry. My mama says hugs help when you're sad." "I'm very good at hugs." Before Claire could respond, a man's voice called out, "Emma, what did we talk about?" "You can't just walk up to strangers." Claire looked up to see a man approaching, probably in his mid-30s, with dark hair, a light beard, and kind eyes that held an apologetic expression. He wore a simple blue Henley jeans, and had the slightly harried look of a parent who'd momentarily lost track of their child. "I'm so sorry," he said to Claire as he reached them. "Emma, you need to stay at our table." "But Daddy, she's sad," Emma insisted, pointing at Claire. "Look at her face. She needs help." The man, Emma's father, looked properly at Claire for the first time, and Claire saw recognition flash across his face. Not of her specifically, but of what Emma had noticed. The barely contained tears, the defeated posture, the aura of someone barely holding it together. "I apologize," he said to Claire, his voice gentler now. "She's very perceptive, sometimes too much so." "Come on, Emma." "Wait," Claire heard herself say. She didn't know why. Maybe it was Emma's innocent concern. Maybe it was the fact that this child had seen her pain when everyone else in her life had been too busy or too polite to acknowledge it. "It's okay." "She's right. I am sad." Emma's eyes widened with vindication. "See, Daddy? I told you." "You did," her father agreed, still looking uncertain about the situation. "Would you—" Claire hesitated, feeling ridiculous but somehow needing this. "Would you like to sit down?" "Both of you? I've been sitting here alone for an hour, and honestly, the company might be nice." The man looked surprised but also understanding. "Are you sure? We don't want to impose." "You're not imposing," Claire said. "I'm Claire, and I think your daughter might be the first person in weeks to actually see that I'm not okay." "I'm Daniel," the man said, pulling out a chair. "Daniel Foster? And this is Emma, who apparently has appointed herself as some kind of emotional support child." "I'm good at helping," Emma said seriously. climbing into the chair next to Claire. Do you want to talk about why you're sad? Talking helps too. That's what Daddy says when I'm sad. Daniel looked mortified. Emma, that's very personal. You can't just... It's fine, Claire said and realized she meant it. There was something about this child's directness, her complete lack of judgment, that made Claire feel like maybe it was safe to be honest. I'm sad because someone I love decided they didn't want to be with me anymore, and I thought we were going to get married and have a family. But it turns out he wanted someone else instead. Emma processed this with the serious consideration of a judge weighing evidence. That was mean of him. You're pretty, and you seem nice. He was silly to pick someone else. Despite the tears that were now openly falling, Claire laughed. Thank you. That's actually really nice to hear. My daddy doesn't have a wife, Emma announced, with the subtle lack of subtlety that only children possess. Mommy went away when I was a baby. Daddy says she had to follow her dreams, and they weren't the same as his dreams. But it's okay because we have each other and we're a good team. Daniel's face had gone slightly red. Emma, I don't think Claire needs to hear our family history. But Claire was looking at Daniel with new understanding. You're raising her alone? Yeah, Daniel said, running a hand through his hair in what looked like an habitual gesture of stress or embarrassment. My ex-wife, Emma's mother, she's a photographer. Does travel work all over the world. When Emma was 6 months old, she got offered a position with National Geographic. Dream job. And I was teaching elementary school here, had my whole life here. We tried to make it work for a while. But eventually she wanted to be free to travel without worrying about getting back for custody schedules. So we divorced, she signed over primary custody, and she sends postcards from amazing places a few times a year. That must have been hard, Claire said quietly. It was, Daniel admitted. Is, some days more than others. But Emma's right, we're a good team. And I wouldn't trade being her dad for anything. Emma, apparently bored with the adult conversation, had noticed Claire's cold coffee. Is that hot chocolate? No, it's coffee, Claire said. Would you like some hot chocolate? Emma's eyes lit up. Can I, Daddy? Daniel started to protest. Claire, you don't have to. I'd like to, Claire said, and realized it was true. For the first time in weeks, she was thinking about something other than her own pain. And maybe I'll get a fresh coffee. This one is probably terrible by now. They ended up staying at the cafe for nearly 2 hours. Emma, fueled by hot chocolate and a chocolate chip muffin, told Claire elaborate stories about her preschool friends, her favorite stuffed animals, and her daddy's job as a teacher. Daniel filled in the gaps, talking about his 4th grade classroom, the challenges of single parenting, the juggling act of work and being fully present for his daughter. In return, Claire found herself opening up in ways she hadn't with anyone else. Not her friends, not her family, not even her therapist. Maybe it was the lack of shared history that made it easier. Maybe it was Emma's innocent acceptance. Maybe it was the understanding. She saw in Daniel's eyes the recognition of someone else who'd had their planned future implode and had to rebuild. The worst part, Claire found herself admitting, is that I don't even know who I am without him. I spent so much time building this perfect life, the career, the relationship, the image, and now half of it is gone and the other half feels meaningless. I worked so hard to be successful, but what's the point if you end up alone? You're not alone right now, Emma pointed out with irrefutable logic. You're with us. She's got a point, Daniel said with a gentle smile. And for what it's worth, I understand what you mean. When Sarah, Emma's mom, left, I felt like my entire identity had been built around being a husband and father to a family unit. Suddenly, I was just a single dad, and I had to figure out who that person was. It took time. It's still taking time. How did you do it? Claire asked. Figure out who you were? Honestly? I stopped trying to figure it out and just started living, Daniel said. I focused on Emma, on my students, on getting through each day. And somewhere in there, I realized I was building a new identity without even planning it. Single dad, teacher, guy, who burns dinner more often than not, but makes a mean breakfast. Person who's doing his best. Your best is really good, Emma interjected. Daddy makes the best pancakes, and he reads all the voices different in stories. And he lets me paint his nails sometimes. Daniel showed his hands. where traces of pink nail polish were visible on his fingernails. "See? Glamorous life of a single father." Claire laughed, a real laugh, the first in weeks. "I think it's sweet." Emma had been studying Claire with that intense focus children have. "Do you want to be friends?" she asked suddenly. "You could come have dinner with us. Daddy's making spaghetti tonight. He's very good at spaghetti. Not as good as pancakes, but still pretty good." "Emma," Daniel started, clearly mortified. "Actually," Claire heard herself saying, "that sounds really nice. If the invitation is genuine and not just your daughter being adorably presumptuous." Daniel looked surprised but pleased. "It's genuine. I mean, if you want to have dinner with a 4-year-old and her disaster of a father in an apartment, that's probably messier than it should be. You're welcome to join us." "I'd like that," Claire said. "I really would." Daniel's apartment was, as advertised, lived in and chaotic in the way homes with small children tend to be. There were toys in various corners, children's artwork on the refrigerator, and a general sense of organized chaos. But it also felt warm and welcoming in a way Claire's pristine loft never had. Emma gave Claire the full tour, showing her every important detail: her room with its princess bedding, her craft corner, her collection of stuffed animals, each of whom had to be individually introduced, and the gallery of family photos on the wall. One photo caught Claire's attention. Daniel and a beautiful woman, holding a newborn Emma. They looked happy, hopeful, like a couple with their whole future ahead of them. "That's my mama," Emma said, noticing Claire's attention. "She's in Africa right now, or maybe Australia. She sends me pictures of animals." "She's very beautiful," Claire said. "Daddy says I have her eyes," Emma said matter-of-factly. "But I have his nose, and his laugh, and his love of books." Daniel appeared in the doorway. "Emma, why don't you go wash your hands for dinner?" "Claire, can I get you something to drink? I have wine, water, or juice boxes." "Wine sounds amazing," Claire said. In the kitchen, as Daniel finished making spaghetti and Claire set the table, at Emma's insistence, because guests help, that's what good friends do, Claire found herself relaxing in a way she hadn't in months. "I'm sorry about all this," Daniel said as he stirred the sauce. "Emma doesn't really understand boundaries yet. I hope we didn't completely hijack your day." "You saved it," Claire said honestly. "I was sitting in that cafe trying to figure out how to get through another day of feeling like a failure, and then this little girl told me I looked sad and offered me a hug. It was exactly what I needed, even if I didn't know it." "She has a gift for that," Daniel said fondly. "Seeing what people need. Her preschool teacher says she's going to be either a therapist or a cult leader." Claire laughed. "I'm rooting for therapist." Dinner was chaotic and lovely. Emma dominated the conversation, telling stories that went nowhere and everywhere, asking questions that ranged from the philosophical, "Why is the sky blue?" "Do fish get thirsty?" to the deeply personal, "Why don't you have a husband?" "Are you going to be lonely forever?" Daniel repeatedly apologized for his daughter's lack of filter, but Claire found she didn't mind. There was something refreshing about Emma's honesty, her complete lack of pretense. After dinner, Emma insisted Claire stay for a story. They all ended up on Emma's bed, Emma in the middle, Claire and Daniel on either side, while Daniel read from a well-worn book about a princess who saved herself. "I like this story," Emma said sleepily. "The princess doesn't need a prince. She has herself, and that's enough." "It is enough," Claire agreed, watching Emma's eyes grow heavy. "Being enough all by yourself is actually pretty powerful." "But it's also okay to have friends," Emma murmured. "And to let people help you. That's what Daddy says. You're strong enough to do it alone, but you're also strong enough to ask for help." By the time the story ended, Emma was asleep. Daniel carefully extracted himself and gestured for Claire to follow him out. In the living room, with 2 glasses of wine, they settled on opposite ends of the couch. "Thank you for dinner," Claire said. "And for today. For seeing a stranger falling apart and not just walking away." "Emma saw you," Daniel said. "I just followed her lead. She's got better instincts than most adults I know." "She's an amazing kid," Claire said. "You're doing a great job with her." "Some days I'm convinced I'm screwing it all up," Daniel admitted. "Single parenting is terrifying. Every decision feels monumental. Every mistake feels like it's going to scar her for life." She seems pretty well adjusted to me, Claire observed. Happy, confident, empathetic. Those don't happen by accident. Daniel looked pleased but embarrassed. Thanks. What about you? Do you want kids someday? I thought I did, Claire said. That was part of the plan with Marcus. But now I don't know. Maybe if I ever trust anyone enough to try again. She paused. Can I ask you something? How did you know when you were ready to start dating again after your divorce? I'm not sure I am ready, Daniel admitted. It's been 3 years, and I've been on maybe 5 dates, all of which were disasters. Between work and Emma and just life, I don't have time for the whole dating game. And honestly, the idea of trying to explain my situation to someone new, to see if they can handle the reality of dating a single dad, it's exhausting. I can imagine, Claire said. Although for what it's worth, I think the right person wouldn't see Emma as a complication. They'd see her as part of the package, the best part. Daniel looked at her for a long moment. That's a nice thought. They talked until late, the conversation flowing easily between them. Daniel told her more about his teaching, about the kids in his class who reminded him why he loved his job despite the challenges. Claire told him about her career, about the creative satisfaction of a great campaign, but also about the emptiness of working for companies she didn't really believe in, selling products people didn't really need. Have you ever thought about doing something different? Daniel asked. Something that felt more meaningful? All the time, Claire admitted. But it's scary. I've built this career, this reputation. Starting over feels impossible. I thought starting over was impossible too, Daniel said. When Sarah left, I thought my life was over. But it wasn't over. It was just different. And different can be good, even when it's hard. When Claire finally left, well past midnight, Emma woke up enough to demand a goodbye hug. Will you come back? The little girl asked sleepily. You're my friend now. Friends visit each other. I'd like to come back, Claire said, looking at Daniel. If that's okay. It's more than okay, Daniel said. Actually, Emma has a dance recital next Saturday. It's probably going to be adorable chaos. If you're free, you're welcome to come. I'd love that, Claire said. Over the following weeks, Claire became a regular presence in Daniel and Emma's lives. She attended Emma's dance recital, which was indeed adorable chaos. She joined them for weekend brunches. She came over for movie nights and helped Emma with art projects that left them both covered in glitter. And slowly, without really planning it, Claire found herself healing. Not because Daniel fixed her, he didn't, couldn't, wouldn't have tried to, but because being around them reminded her what mattered, reminded her that life was more than career success and impressive appearances, reminded her that joy could be found in small moments, a child's laughter, a shared meal, honest conversation with someone who understood struggle. She also started making changes in her own life. She turned down a promotion that would have required even more hours, choosing instead to maintain work-life balance. She started volunteering with a literacy program at Daniel's school. She took up painting, something she'd loved in college but had abandoned as impractical. And she spent time with Daniel, sometimes with Emma, sometimes just the two of them after Emma was asleep. They'd talk about everything and nothing, sharing the comfortable silence that came from growing friendship. It was Emma who eventually forced the conversation they'd both been dancing around. 3 months after that first meeting in the café, during a Sunday afternoon at the park, Emma announced, I think you should be Daddy's girlfriend. Daniel, who'd been pushing Emma on the swing, nearly dropped the chains. Emma! What? Emma said with perfect innocence. You like Claire. Claire likes you. That's what girlfriends and boyfriends are. People who like each other. It's a bit more complicated than that, Daniel said, his face red. Why? Emma asked with the devastating logic of childhood. You smile more when Claire comes over. And you get nervous and change your shirt sometimes. That's what happens on TV when people like each other. Claire, who'd been sitting on a nearby bench, was trying not to laugh. She makes some good points. Daniel looked at her helplessly. I'm sorry. Apparently my daughter is running my love life now. Or maybe, Claire said, standing up and walking over to them, your daughter is just brave. Enough to say what we've both been thinking but have been too scared to admit. Daniel stopped pushing the swing and Emma jumped off, immediately running to the slide and giving them a moment of privacy. Have you been thinking it? Daniel asked quietly. Because I have. For a while now, but I didn't want to presume, and I didn't want to risk the friendship we've built. And I definitely didn't want you to feel obligated because you've gotten attached to Emma. I'm not with you because of Emma, Claire said. I'm with you because somewhere between that first dinner and now I fell.